When I was 10, I learned my dad had cheated on my late mom with his current wife and that my half-sister was the product of the affair and was born before my parents' divorce was finalized. I was too young to realize when it was all going on. After learning this, I had a hard time being around my dad. I remember my mom being sad and it made sense why. I also learned that he'd told my mom in a really cruel way. How I found out is I eavesdropped on a fight between my dad and my uncle and aunt, my mom's siblings, and heard it all, including how much my dad hated how boring my mom was. As a result, I remained distant from him, his wife, and my half-siblings ever since. I have 2 more half-sisters and a half-brother. My mom's grandma started a cookbook before she had kids. My grandma inherited it from her when grandma started having kids, and then my mom got it before she had me. My mom gave it to me when she was sick. I was 7 at the time and died a couple of years after. She told me to be careful with it and that it was special to our family. My dad decided to tell the oldest of my half-siblings about the cookbook. He mentioned how much I valued it and all kinds of stuff. She wanted to share it with me, to cook from it, and to get to write in it like I will someday. She pestered me about it, and every time I told her no. Then her parents would tell her more about it. In the end, she was upset and sobbing over being told no. I told her it was something special from my mom's side and I wanted to keep it private until I had children. That wasn't good enough because she insisted we're family and she's my sister. My dad and his wife were angry with me. My dad's parents also told me I should have shared it with her, and that I was being cruel to her when my mom wasn't alive to care if the child born from the affair gets a part of the book or not. But she could be closer to me because I share it with her. I don't really care about my dad or his wife's opinion. I have no respect for them. They're pieces of crap in my eyes. But my grandparents and I always got along okay enough. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but your entire family is. Your mom died when you were very young, and then add all this ridiculous affair awfulness to it. Traumatic, and I am so sorry. You seem very well adjusted for someone who has suffered so much. You're 100% entitled to honor your mother's memory however you see fit. If that means sharing the book, cool. If it means not sharing the book, that's cool too. Do what you want. The fact your family can't allow you to honor your mother how you see fit is absolutely disgusting. I'm so sorry, OP. Exactly, it's fine to have something just for you. Your sister didn't know your mum and it was a special gift to you. However, I don't think I would be willing to share it either, especially under these pressurized circumstances. Can I recommend you get a bank box to store it in for safety and take photos of all the pages? Yep, if you're able, get a bank security box and put it there. I had a similar issue with a cousin who demanded I give her every cookbook, every index card, and clipping of my grandmother's vast collection. I said no. I went on deployment and came home to an empty pantry. I was told I didn't need them overseas. Never saw them again. Thankfully, my dad had scanned and put them all on a hard drive years before this. But it isn't the same. Joke's on her, though. The one cookie icing recipe she wanted to find, she couldn't. Grandma never wrote it down, and I was the only one she made it with. OMG, it's a treasured heirloom from your mother and her family. Your half-sister has no claim to it at all. This is an equivalent of a family heirloom. It belongs to you. No obligation to share. Your mother would absolutely care if you shared it with the product of your adulterous father's affair, baby. Shame on your grandparents. Please give the cookbook to your maternal family for safekeeping. I don't trust your dad's family. My daughter Ruby, tween, was born mute. She can understand words, but we use sign language to communicate. While she can use her phone or write, obviously, she prefers to sign. The issue is my girlfriend Amanda has a daughter, Mia, pre-tween. We've been dating for around 9 months and introduced our children around 3 months ago. They don't know sign language, so communication with Ruby was awkward at first. She hates having to write or use her phone at home. So I taught Amanda some basic signs beforehand, and I've continued teaching her and Mia more this time. Mia is getting better. But Amanda has apparently decided it's too hard and refuses to learn anymore. She says that it's unnecessary since Ruby can understand her and communicate in other ways. While Ruby is usually willing to do that for them, she doesn't enjoy it and finds it frustrating. I told Amanda she was being selfish and lazy, that it's unfair to put only some of the effort into Ruby. And it's one thing if she doesn't get it after years, but it's only been a few months. It's just ridiculous. We got into a fight over it and she basically called me an idiot. and said it's not her fault she struggles with it. But that doesn't mean just giving up. If she wants to be in our lives, it's the bare minimum effort to put in. I think she's just being selfish while she thinks I'm an idiot and unfair. I vented to my brother and he agreed with Amanda. I can't force her to learn and not everyone is good with language, and that Ruby doesn't need it and I'm coddling her. I'm honestly still angry, but I do love Amanda. She's normally thoughtful and kind, and it's possible it's just me being overprotective of Ruby. I think it's a reasonable expectation, but I'm starting to doubt myself. Not the idiot, but do you see a future with a woman who point blank refuses to speak to your daughter? This should be a deal breaker for you. If she's not willing to learn sign for your daughter, she has no plans of being a big part of her life. Let's say you'll get married one day. She will just not communicate with your daughter directly. She's okay with that. You're okay with that. What happens if someone isn't there to translate? What happens if there's an emergency and it's just her and your daughter there and your daughter is trying to explain her feelings through sign before passing out? Your daughter deserves better and you really need to consider how this impacts her. Yes, your girlfriend is lazy and selfish, but more importantly, your daughter deserves more than her. She deserves someone that's going to put in effort to love her enough to learn sign. Be wary if she's already this resentful of your daughter. Your brother's an idiot too. I disagree. She met your child 3 months ago and struggles to learn sign language. While you have a right to choose a partner who will meet your daughter on her level, 3 months is hardly a lot of time. I think you could have an honest discussion and say, I really love you, but I will never propose to and marry someone who won't learn sign language given my daughter. This will set clear expectations and open an honest dialogue. Amanda will have to decide and you can proceed accordingly. I suspect you'll have your answer within a few months. I, 26 female, am on vacation with my siblings, their families, our parents, my husband, 26, and our 4 kids. We're going on a cruise tomorrow and decided to vacation in the departure city for a few days before the ship leaves. Yesterday, we went to an amusement park and things went fine until lunch. My sister Laura, 33, has 7 kids with her husband, 33. Her oldest son, Jude, is openly gay. He's very feminine and stereotypically gay. We don't have an issue with that. However, Jude tends to use his orientation to excuse bad behavior, most notably his pretty blatant misogyny. Most of Jude's friends are girls, and I've overheard him and his friends shame girls in his grade before. My sister's young teen, Heston, has complete opposite interests. He's the sporty one, and as far as I know, he hasn't said anything wrong or bigoted. He's a nice kid. Heston is also starting to talk more and more about the girls he likes. Heston was showing some photos of girls he likes to the table while we were at lunch. Jude saw the girls, and he kept making remarks about what the girls were wearing, including calling them misogynistic names, mocking the girls for their hobbies such as sports and mocking the weights of them. I tried telling him to stop a few times and he wouldn't, saying that I was only offended because it was true. The final straw for me was when he told Heston to stop being a wimp when he was getting visibly upset. I pulled Laura aside to talk to her, and when I did, she said Jude couldn't be misogynistic because he was gay, and how his friends have said he's basically one of the girls. As soon as lunch was over, I told my family I needed a break, and we went to a different part of the park for the rest of the day. I specifically told the table it was because Jude was being disgusting, and I asked him if he was this much of a bully at school. When we got back to the hotel, a few of my siblings, including Laura, started arguing with me about whether what I did was okay. They said I was in the wrong for both breaking off and for my comments to Jude. Laura continued to defend Jude, saying he was a good kid who was just voicing his own views, and some of our siblings agreed with her, but some were saying I was in the right and Jude went too far. Later that night, Heston came into our room and thanked me, saying he wished he'd spoken up and then asked me for some advice on girls. Laura is also mad that I gave him advice on girls, but he's a sweet kid, and I know any girl would be lucky to have him. Laura said it was disrespectful to her authority. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Tell your sister, in her son's own words, she's only offended because it's true. She's raising a bully. I do hope she comes to her senses. Jude isn't cute or funny in this, just destructive, and sooner or later that will hurt him the most. He'll have no friends who trust that he won't harm them somehow with his comments. And let your nephew know he can hang out with you guys for this trip if his family isn't going to be kind to him. Ugh, and this isn't stereotypically gay, it's gross bullying behaviour. I can honestly say I have more gay friends than straight, and none of them speak like this, and the younger generation, younger cousins, are the exact opposite of this kid, the kindest kids who advocate for everyone. This kid is going to have a tough time later on, and he deserves it. Frankly, I think it's awesome that Heston was able to recognise what you did for him and to come to thank you, and I'm so glad he was able to ask you for advice. He needs real adult support while he's at a confusing age, so I encourage you to keep loving him and mentoring him. It's healthy for kids to have adult mentors outside of their parents, especially during their teen years, and it's downright necessity if their parents are as unsupportive as your sister. I got pregnant a couple of months before I graduated high school. I was subject to relentless bullying from classmates, random teachers, and adults. My cousin attended the same high school as me and was in the same year, and was considered popular among our peers. She was one of the people who bullied me the most. She was relentless and made my life miserable, along with her complicit mother, my aunt, who loved to make comments too. My parents fell out with them over this, so it was minimum contact for years. My life was miserable because of them mostly, but I got through it. My then boyfriend got a job and I did my degree online while working part-time, and we got through it. We're now married and both have very well-paying jobs. I now have a young child and another baby on the way, and I wouldn't change a thing. My parents adore their granddaughter, and her great-grandparents absolutely spoil her and love it too. Our families eventually made up too through our grandparents, though this is fairly recent, and I don't see my cousin that much as I resent her. My cousin is unable to get pregnant and is medically infertile. She and her husband tried for a long time, and her husband recently left her because he wanted biological kids. She's understandably devastated. It was my mother's birthday and the whole family attended the get-together. I showed my mom the scans and revealed the pregnancy at the party. My mother and everyone else were overjoyed. My cousin didn't say much and neither did her mom, but I thought that was fair enough. Later on, I was cuddling my daughter and being silly with her, and everyone was telling me how lovely she was and how lucky I was. Finally, my cousin got up, left, and slammed the door. Everyone said to let her sulk, so her mom took her side and said I was insensitive and should apologise. I told her I still hadn't received an apology for their "end it" or "your failure" comments, so I won't be apologising to anyone, so she left too. My family is divided. Some think I should apologise to keep the peace, and some say I've done nothing wrong. I think I maybe should have been more sensitive, as I can see where it could have been salt in the wound, but I'm unsure about apologising. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It should never be on the bully to apologise to keep the peace. Plus, the onus on the ones responsible for the lack of peace to begin with. People say keep the peace because they fear the other's anger or reactions. That just allows bullies to keep being bullies. Yeah, do they understand what an apology is? Do they expect OP to sit there and express sincere regret for having a lovely child and being pregnant? Do they really expect you not to treat your child with love and affection because they're around? It sounds like they're still the same idiots they were when you were in high school. You are owed an apology, a big one. No, that won't magically make her problems disappear, but you're owed basic human decency. I also don't think you were rubbing anything in her face. You showed your mom a scanned photo. Unless there's a chunk of the story missing here, I can't see what you did wrong. They'd have found out about the baby anyway, and then you'd have had it in the neck for not telling them. It looks to me like they would always find a way to make you feel crappy. Congratulations on your new pregnancy, sending you lots of love and best wishes. You don't stop celebrating life because someone else can't produce it. I totally agree with not the idiot, and that OP should not stop celebrating, but I don't agree with the can't produce it sentiment or the talk of karma. Being infertile is not a failure, a consequence of any action, or a just punishment. A lot of wonderful women are infertile through no fault of their own. My girlfriend and I were at a restaurant and she was not fond of the menu. She has no dietary restrictions or is vegan, she's just a picky eater. However, she ordered anyways and wanted to get the same thing I did. She hated it before taking the first bite, and I kept telling her to try at least. Finally, she took a bite and gave me a gagging face. She continued complaining about the food and critiquing it while I was eating, and people were watching, which was pretty embarrassing. What shocked me was that she got up to the waiter and loudly expressed him to take it back and she didn't want it anymore, and it was awful. I got fed up, I left and got in my car and went home. She noticed and called me while I was driving, and I went home and called her back and told her what she did was embarrassing and something a Karen would do. She was crying and told me to screw off and called me an idiot and all sorts of other names. She had someone pick her up from the restaurant, but what she told me when she got home, that I have to pay her back for the food and she deserves me to take her to another restaurant. After an argument, I asked her to leave and I haven't spoken to her since. A friend messaged me, the one who picked her up, saying I was a piece of crap and I should be ashamed because I left her at the restaurant with the check. Am I the idiot? You left her with the check? You owe her for your meal. OMG, you are the idiot. I sure hope this relationship is over. You two are awful together. Everyone's the idiot here. She was being a brat, but you left her there when you were her ride. You could have waited for her outside or something. You both need to grow up. What a ridiculous thing to break up over. Also, what was the discussion at the beginning of the meal? Did she ask to leave together and you were like, no, or what? I highly disagree. Actually, this is exactly the kind of thing to break up over. Wildly toxic public behaviour. She is a walking red flag. But you left her there when you were her ride. Why is this a problem? Surely it's not because you think women are infantilized, helpless dependents. She's old enough to Uber back home. OP, you are not the idiot. I hope your girlfriend becomes your ex here soon. First off, she wouldn't even try the food. I'm sorry, but if you have no dietary restrictions but are unwilling to try new food, you're just childish. Second, she was loud enough for people to hear and stare at you, which is embarrassing on your behalf, but think of all the other people trying to enjoy a nice night out and having to listen to her. Third, she bothered the serving crew, like leave them alone. I don't see a problem with leaving her. She can call an Uber or her parents since she wants to act like a child.